All right. Welcome, everyone. As we filter in from the waiting room, we are hosting another Maine SBDC webinar today, and we are focused on email marketing. So we are very lucky to have Corey Zimmerman here today again from the Wander Web. She's going to be walking us through what is email marketing, why is it important, and how to utilize it for as little monetary investment as possible. So it will require your time, but if that's all you got, then we're going to give you some tools to move forward with it. My name is Kelsey, and I'm with the state office with the Maine Small Business Development Centers. And if you are not familiar, we are here to help the small business owners of Maine with anything you could possibly need help with. And so we are lucky to have a number of specialists working with us this year, and Corey is one of them. So if you find today to be helpful and you are set up with a business advisor, or you would like to get established with a business advisor, you can also mention that you loved Corey's webinar and you would just kill to work with her one-on-one, and we can make sure that you get connected with everyone. Please utilize the chat feature down below to submit any questions you have along the way, or feel free to introduce yourself. Let us know your business. If you have a webinar you'd like to share, if you have a website, this is the webinar. If you have a website you'd like to share, please go ahead and plug that in. And there's always time for Q&A at the end, but so if we don't get to your question along the way, we'll definitely make sure we have time for it at the end, but feel free to plug those in along the way. And otherwise, I will pass it over to Corey.
Hey guys, I am Corey. It's nice to meet all of you. My last name is Zimmerman. I'm Corey Zimmerman, and I own an agency in Bangor, Maine called the Wander Web. We're a WordPress design and business strategy agency, helping Mainers be successful online. So today we are talking about email marketing. And one of the questions that I get asked a lot is, does email still work? Something I hear all the time because I do encourage email marketing for a lot of the people that I work with. And I would say that yes, email marketing is still relevant and still very has a great opportunity for success for businesses. And the average ROI in 2021, return on investment for every dollar spent with email marketing was $42. And businesses that sold through email, actually the customers that bought through email spent 138% more than non-email marketing customers. So the data is still proving that email works. And because it is so stinking inexpensive, it's something that I frequently recommend for small businesses as a great solution and one of the most effective ways to make sales online, especially when you consider that 99% of people check their email daily. And it's a great way to nurture and grow your audience. If you're wondering if social media converts, we are going to talk about that and discuss the impact of social media marketing as a comparison to email marketing. But what I will say is, when it comes to email marketing, it's so very important that you do it right. And we'll talk about what that entails today, because doing email marketing correctly is incredibly important to continue to nurture and gain authority and trust with your customer base and referral partners. I hear a lot that people hate email. And what I would say to that is, email works if it's personal. It's the way we communicate with our friends. And so if you're just sending out random email blasts that have not been customized or provided offer value, then you probably are going to hit a lot of spam filters, and you're probably not going to be successful with email marketing. So again, we'll go back to some of the techniques that are tried and true, proven to work. But just remember that the benefits of email marketing include, if you do it right, an incredibly high return on investment. You own your customer list, and it's a proven marketing strategy. So what does it mean when I say you own your email list? I'd like to do a side-by-side comparison of email and social media. So when you're on social media and you're sharing your content, you do not own that content. That content is owned by whatever social media platform you're sharing the content to. According to Forbes, most recently, email is 40 times more effective than Facebook and Twitter combined in helping a business acquire new customers. The average open rate for an email is around 20% conservatively, compared to an average Facebook reach of 2 to 5% of your audience. So every Facebook post that you put on your Facebook business page is reaching on average 2 to 5% of the people that are following your business. And as we said, people who buy products marketed through email spend 138% more than those who do not receive email offers. And if you're wondering if social media converts even better, the average order is at least 3 times higher as compared to social media, if you're advertising on social media. So with that in mind, I'm a huge fan of email marketing, especially when it comes to comparing it to social media, simply because you will have to spend money on ads if you want to be successful on social media. And even then, your email marketing is going to be 3 times more profitable. So with that in mind, are you ready to learn a little bit about email marketing and how to do it successfully and increase your profit margin for your small business? If you are, say yes, right in the chat. I want to see some yeses coming in just to make sure you guys are paying attention. Awesome. Great, guys. All right. So let's get into it. So what we're going to talk about, because you're probably wondering after the introduction that I gave, is how do I create emails that my customers want to receive? And how do I sell without being salesy on email? Because nobody likes to get a salesy email. Nobody. We'll talk about that today. And we will start with the elements of value table pyramid. And I don't know if you can see this well, but if you're going to take anything from today, this is what I would like you to take away today. So this is a great tool to use as a reference to make sure that you're offering valuable content, because products and services that deliver these elements of value generally address 4 types of value, or elements of value. One is functional, one is emotional, one is life-changing, and one is social impact. And in general, the more elements you provide as associated with your product, the higher your customers' loyalty is, and the higher your company's sustainable growth will be. So when you look at this pyramid, the more you include in your offer of these different values, the more likely your offer is to resonate with your customers and your client base. So for example, if you're selling a product that saves time and is fun and let's see, makes you part of an organization, that's more attractive to somebody than just reducing risk, if that makes sense. So as you go through your offers, if you really look at these, and there's some great articles on Harvard Business Review about this, but try to really tie in as many social, emotional, life-changing, and functional impacts as you can into every offer that you have. So this is something that every time you put out an email, put out a social media post, write some content for a piece or a product that you're representing, this is something that you should be considering. Okay, and the source is right here if you're looking, if you would like to look it up. So now we know how to offer things of value, and we need to find a way to get people to send our emails to. One thing that I'll say is they have to be the right people. And so what makes up a good list? A good list is made up of email addresses from people who've asked and expect you to email them. Examples of this would be people who signed up on your website or physically signed up on a list that you have in your store, or customers who've asked to receive emails when they're making a purchase. Those are all examples of good list collection processes. A bad list is one, and I do see this still, a bad list is made up of email addresses that people have not asked you to send them emails and they don't expect to receive them. So I do see people still scrubbing lists and purchasing lists, or joining associations just to get the list on an association, and mass emailing the association like a chamber or a networking group. So an example of a bad list is any list you've paid for or rented from a third party. Another example of a bad list is a stale list that you have collected but haven't emailed in the last 6 months. So I would like to point that out because we'll talk about frequency and how often you should email your list today. And I will give you the exact right answer for you because every customer base is different and wants a different thing. So we'll talk about that today too. Okay. So now we are going to talk about how can you kickstart that email list, because a lot of us are starting from zero when we start our business. So the first thing I would say is give clients a reason to opt in. So as you collect your email lists from your website, social media, your email signature, and at time of purchase, a general rule of thumb around the cost of an email per se in someone's perceived value of giving away their email address is around $20. So whatever you offer somebody, it should be in their mind worth about $20 for them to readily give up their email address to you. So with that in mind, these are some of the ways that you can have somebody opt in onto your email list. So you could offer a coupon or a discount. In order to get that coupon or discount, they give you their email. You could have a paper sign-up sheet in your store, and that could be, you know, a small community shop that people are really just wanting to enhance the community experience. You could offer a mini session or mini class or mini consultation that is no cost to the customer. You probably have seen in order to get into Wi-Fi, you have to give your email address away. That's something that people will do. You could have be collecting emails at events where people register for an event that you're hosting, like a webinar, and you collect their email address, or even at trade shows. And then the traditional way to collect emails for online marketers is with a lead magnet. And an example of a lead magnet, you might have heard of it, called a freebie, is checklists, quizzes, challenges, or ebooks. The most common successful way to collect emails with a lead magnet mostly is with a checklist or a quiz. Those are the two things that most people will be pretty happy to give their emails away for, which is really cool because a checklist is pretty easy to put together. A quiz, not so much. There's a lot of behavioral psychology that goes into a quiz, but creating a checklist that provides great value for somebody around a topic that you're very familiar with is a great way for digital marketers, when you're doing your digital marketing, to get people to give you their email address. My favorite way to grow emails is through collaborations. And so I've given a host of ideas here around collaborations, and I'm going to actually dig into them a little bit for you, simply because this is probably, as you're starting your email list, the most effective way for you to quickly get up and going with a lot of contacts in your ideal customer base for very low cost, maybe a little bit of effort. So the first thing you can do is offer free training inside a group. So you might have a Facebook Live training on a topic that you know that the group owner would be interested in having for that audience. That doesn't necessarily compete directly with them, but provides value to their audience. So an example would be maybe a calligrapher going on to Facebook Live to do training for a group of bullet journal enthusiasts, right? So you're both helping the same audience, but you're not taking that customer base from the group owner, right? You're providing some value. So you could get people onto your list by providing a lateral value for people that already are connecting with your ideal customer. That's probably the easiest way to quickly get people onto your groups, onto your list. Sorry, I'm jumping all around from between groups and lists. What I mean is email lists. So another way is a joint venture webinar or workshop where you and a partner host a joint webinar together and deliver joint training where you're both bringing your expertise together into a bundled offering that you both are collecting emails at the end of the webinar or workshop. So this is really well suited if you are selling a higher ticket item. That's a really like a course or a membership. That this might not work for product-based unless you are providing something free at the end of the webinar. You could run a giveaway together where you and a partner have a joint giveaway where the requirement for entry is submitting your email address. After the giveaway, you can send an email to invite them all to your email list and share with them your lead magnet or your coupon, right? Or your free mini session, okay? So there's ways that you can tie these two together and stack them. One of my favorite ways, and as entrepreneurs, we're all really great about building each other up, is giving an amazing testimonial that makes it easy for someone to share. So I love to do this because I really like to support other entrepreneurs. So I would maybe give a testimonial that came in a wonderful format or in a video that showed how their product helped my business. And by writing up like a glowing review or a case study or like a video and just sending it over. And by that, you can gently allude to your own business and how it helped your business. And if you're both dealing with the same ideal customers, that person, that other entrepreneurs will be so happy to share it, but also you'll have an opportunity to get in front of their customer base. The other thing you can do is swap out social media shout outs. So you would promote somebody else's content or products and they too would promote yours, just a cross promotion. You could do that on YouTube or an interview teaching their subject audience about what you're specialized in that's related to their overall content. And that sort of ties into the YouTube, the social media shout out and the podcast or YouTube interview. They go together quite nicely. You could also swap lead magnets onto your individual channels, right? So you would share maybe your ebook and they would share their checklist. And so gather emails that way. And the last way I would suggest is a guest article, where you write an article or a blog as a guest post or author, and that's published on another website. So again, you want to be really mindful about picking someone that you're partnering with that also has the same audience that you do, but you're offering a lateral service. So you're not competing with them, but they're already working with your ideal audience. Again, we talked about that, the calligrapher and the bullet journal person. But another example would be a decorator writing an article about home decoration for a real estate agent or how to stage a house for a real estate agent. So those would be ways that you could cross promote. So I would encourage you to look at these two slides and really think about some strategies in which you could collect emails. And now we'll get into what actually would that look like when you send out an email. So you've got your list, and now what? One thing that I will say is every email you send should be part of your business strategy. So sending an email or creating a social media post just to send or create it, if it doesn't have an ulterior motive or goal behind it, then you really are just spinning your wheels. So what I would encourage you to think about is your most wanted response. So if your reader does one thing and only one thing as a result from that email, what is it that you want them to do? And you can only pick the one, right? So it might be click a link. It might be download your freebie and add them to your list so you start to nurture, right? But you can only ask for one thing per email, because the likelihood of that client clicking on that is around 5%, right? And so when you consider that, the likelihood of them actually then going back and clicking that second thing is probably 0. So when you're thinking about your content, be really mindful about your one wanted response. What's the one thing that you want that client to do? And then your job is to make it really easy for them. All right, so ways you can use email are newsletters. And anyone who's met with me as a client through SBDC, if they say they have a newsletter, I always say, let's call it something better. Heather Lux from True North Beauty calls it her love letter. I call it my Monday marketing tip when I send out my weekly emails. So just make it a little jazzy for your business and try and brand it a little bit. You can take anything, put a couple capital letters on it, and brand it for your business and just call it yours. The other way is just an acquisition email. So you're outreaching to people to acquire them as customers or onto your list. To retain your customers and to promote to your customers. So following up after a purchase or an abandoned cart recovery are things that would work really well for emails for product-based businesses or service-based businesses that also have some digital products. So don't forget, after the purchase, your thank you email, and then abandoned cart recovery. I actually worked with a client through SBDC, and we were able to decrease her cart abandonment rate by 20%. And that's a pretty significant jump. We also did some other behavioral economics on her website, and we increased her cart content cost significantly as well. So I think her average cart went from $35 to $50, and we also decreased her cart abandonment rate from 70% to 50%. So 20% less of people just not buying out of the cart, and average cart abandonment rate is 70%. Plus she increased her rate of sales. So between the two, she had a pretty good quarter. We were pretty happy about those results. So now we're going to make some inbox magic. Is everybody ready? Awesome. I think Kelsey's ready. Everyone else has their screen turned off. All right. So email rules that you probably did not know. Kelsey's heard me say this probably 5 or 6 times by now because she hears my copywriting spiel, but copywriting is probably the most important strategy you can have in marketing your business successfully. And copywriting is the one with the W, not the R, and it is sales or marketing writing. And it is very different than the writing that you learned in school. So spell check, still very important to make sure your spelling is correct, but grammar is actually not as important as it used to be when you were writing those papers in school. So when it comes to grammar, especially since the invention of spell check. But when it comes to grammar, proper noun capitalization matters, but everything else, really, you can just kind of throw it away. You can write in fragments, you can end a sentence on a preposition, use contractions. It's important that you do this so you don't sound like a robot, right? So you can use don't, you should not say do not, unless you normally would say do not, right? And you can break sentences up, keep your paragraphs choppy and 2 to 3 sentences at a time. Those are actually desired when it comes to copywriting. Why? Because it makes your content more readable. When it comes to reading online, people read, and this is going to be different for you. They read down and not across, right? So if you think about the way that you look at something online, you skim it, you look at the top and you look at the bottom, right? And then you sort of gather what's in between and any highlights that come out. So making things scannable is incredibly important. And to do that, you use special effects. The special effects that I would talk about are like parentheses, making things bold, adding in your italics, and line breaks. And so when you're going to send out an email or writing some copy, if you would naturally pause in the middle of a sentence, it's very okay to then put the rest of that sentence on another line. I do actually suggest that because it makes your content much more readable. Again, people read down and not across. So you're going to want your content to be narrower and longer, right? And definitely you can spend 10 minutes writing a good email or an hour writing a good short email, right? So making it a little bit short, it's so important and really does need your time. And the other thing I would say is make it a little bit fun. Very rarely does a brand not have any fun or should not have any fun associated with it. And I can think of a very small percentage of businesses that shouldn't be fun, but overall, add a little bit of yourself in there. Again, it's not an academic essay. This is real life. So write as you speak. The personality is in your details and the things that are you, right? So don't censor yourself. If you read it out loud and it feels a little awkward or stuffy, then it's going to come across that way. So make sure that your content sounds like you do. And make sure it's mobile friendly. So we'll talk about that in a minute. In order for your email content to be mobile friendly, and when you consider mobile friendly, 60% of people, I just lost my slide, one moment, please. 60% of people actually, having a little technical difficulty here. 60% of people will look on their email and not on read emails on their phones. Stand by, I just have to reload my content. I hit a button and it disappeared.
We always say technology is great when it works.
Right? I lean forward and I hit control.
I don't even know what that key short is. So yeah. Thanks everyone for your patience while we
thank you everybody
work through it.
All right, we're going. All right, we're back. All right, so the best things you can do in order to make sure your email is mobile friendly is keep the subject line short. Your subject line will determine whether your email is open or not, right? So 50 characters or less is the sweet spot because after 50 characters, your subject line will get chopped off, all right? Your text should be at least 14 points in size and probably between 14 and 16. I wouldn't go any larger than 16 because then it begins to look childish. And the other thing I would say is consider the pre-header. And what I mean by the pre-header is when you're looking at an email, you'll see the subject line and you often see the first maybe 100 letters of the email itself. And so if use that for good, use that mindfully and be very careful about your first 100 letters. The other thing I would say is just get to the point. The people are reading so many emails these days, so scrolling through dozens of emails that are very long, your chance of them reading them are incredibly low. The email that has converted best for my business, of all of the emails that I sent, and I send an email out every week and I have for as long as I've had my business, the email that converted best was the one that I sent between Christmas and New Year's this year, and it said, Merry Christmas or Happy New Year, and here's a quick freebie or here's a quick thing from us. And it literally was 2 sentences. And that email had the highest open rate and the highest click-through rate of every email that I've toiled and spent my Sunday nights on to send out that Monday morning email. So keep it really short, sweet, and to the point. I did link a blog post here, and when you get the PDF, you'll be able to read it. But I've got lots of great tips on email marketing in my blog that you could refer to. So going back to subject lines, one of the most important things to know about a subject line is it is reviewed for spam. And so to avoid getting your emails blocked by, in particular, Gmail spam filter and kept out of your subscribers' inbox, you have to really be mindful about your subject line, make sure it's relevant to the body of your email. And there are some spammy words that automatically, if you include them in your subject line, will automatically pop you into the spam filter. And I have a list of those that I will share with you in a second, but let's dig into subject lines a little bit more. So 40% of email recipients open their email based upon the subject line alone. And 69% of people that report emails report it based upon the subject line alone without even opening the email up. So if people are reporting emails as spam, 31% of them aren't even reading the email before they decide it's spam. So there are some great tips and tricks around subject lines, and I included them here. Keep them, as we said, around 50 characters. Alliteration. So if you could have a couple words in your subject line that start with the same letter that flow really well, that is well received. You would see sometimes people writing their subject lines as though they are an article header, but please don't. The first letter can be capitalized, but overall avoid capitals in your subject line. And if you can, include a personal greeting with a name. Brackets, in particular, these square brackets that I've included, which on your keyboard are up there underneath your backspace, and numbers in emails headers tend to do very, very well. And if you're not sure, you can do something called, every email system has something called A/B testing. And what that means is you might test two subject lines because the subject line is the most impactful thing for your email to get opened. So I would start with testing there, and you could pick two different subject lines, and your email system will send out both and see what people open more, and then send the rest out with that subject line that was more successful. And every email marketing software has this, and it's super easy to do, super easy. So, and then there's the behavioral psychology that actually goes with subject lines. So these are some of the ways that people use behavioral psychology in order to have people open emails more often. So Warby Parker has this great one, and it's fear of missing out. Is their premise is, uh-oh, your prescription is expiring. So I definitely would open that if I received it. There's others here, for example, flash sale alert from HP. And you can leverage urgency like JetBlue does, where you're missing out on points. And then there's other behavioral things that you could touch on. And that's all going back to that pyramid that we looked at, right? You can talk about a pain point, you can appeal to their vanity, you can do some humor, or appeal to curiosity. I like the funny one. Groupon pointed out, deals that make us proud, unlike our nephew Steve, which for some reason cracked me up, so I included it. I like to keep, if I open something that just based purely upon the subject line, I usually will pull it and keep it in a file, and I'll talk about how to do that in a little bit. So ways to stay out of spam are, make sure you send out your content on the regular, at least once a month, ideally once a week or more often. The right amount of time to send out emails, the right amount of frequency, is the amount of time that your customers want it. And the way that you know is by looking at your data. So if you are sending out email once a week and your open rate is pretty good, you can try and go up a little bit and maybe try twice a week if you have the time, because honestly, we're entrepreneurs, we don't all have the time. Sometimes done is better than perfect. And if you're good with once a week, then that's great. If all you can do is once a month and you're glad to have done that, the only thing I would say is make sure you do it regularly. Because if you go too long, people will not expect that email and they will delete, delete, delete. And that's probably the worst thing that could happen, is if you ghost your list. So send your content regularly. Keep inactive subscribers off your list. And what that means is people that don't open your emails, all email marketing software has a way that you can look through and see if people aren't interested, if they're not opening your emails, or if you're going right to their junk folder, then you can actually remove them from your list to decrease your spam rate. Your subject lines are the most important thing that you can write. I would recommend that after you write your email, you write 3 to 10 subject lines per email. Again, done is better than perfect. If you don't have time and you're like, Corey, I can't even just imagine, I find with my email list, if I mix up my subject lines, they don't get the same open rate as if I send the same subject line every week. So every week I say, here's your 2-minute tip. Like, that's it. That's my subject line. And I tried other subject lines just to see, and they didn't open as well. So I'm like, great, I'll just keep it easy and send out the same subject line every week. And avoid spam trigger words in your subject lines. So spam are essentially words that indicate to a server that the emails are mass produced and mass sent to groups without being customized. So these are 30 common spam words or phrases from this last year. That there's about 160 of them that they measure every year, but these are the 30 that I see the most. I pulled them out specifically, and I won't get into each and every one of these. Just know that Kelsey will send this out to you at the end. But some really common words to avoid in your subject line are sale, %, and open. So those are things that I see pretty frequently that I would suggest that you avoid putting in your subject line. We did speak about preview text a little bit before, and remember I said it's about 100 words or less, depending upon the platform, whether it's Outlook, Google, Yahoo, whatever. You have an opportunity to use 35 to 90 additional characters. It does affect your open rate and compels readers to open the email. So again, the preview text is the bit of text below or next to an email subject line in your inbox. And that can give your customer a little bit of extra insight as to what's in the email. We're going to move on to the email body now. I know that there's a lot of content here. This is just like last week's blog like a boss. This is your email like a boss. It's more of a reference guide. And I would encourage you to, if you haven't seen the blog like a boss course, it would preface this one, and they actually flow together very well. I do have a process that I recommend where you write a blog and then repurpose it as an email and social media content. So you're creating one piece of content and leveraging it multiple times. So when it comes to writing the body of an email, we did talk about making it skimmable, keeping the content more narrow, using your fancy characters, italics, and bold. But my best recommendation is send the email that looks like you are sending it to a friend, because you email your friends, right? And so when you are putting together this email, I would discourage you from making it too pretty. I would discourage you from putting too many graphics in it, or making the content look like a magazine. What you're really doing at that point is increasing your risk of popping into spam, okay? There are ways that the servers and the search engines will measure the weight of an email, and if it's image heavy, they often will automatically just send it to spam. So I would encourage your emails to be text heavy over images. I'm not saying don't use images, I'm saying don't use images as your primary purpose of sending the email out, unless it's like to your mom and you're sending her pictures of your dog like I do. So, and I did talk a little bit about copywriting. And so there's a book I recommend, and it's Ray Edwards' How to Write Copy That Sells. And I think that if there is one book, if you're going to do your own marketing, that you were going to read, I would say Ray Edwards' How to Write Copy That Sells. Because this quote is so perfect. There is no such thing as a broke copywriter. Copywriters can make your business magical. They can take your boring or dry content and make it fun and readable and exciting and engaging and appeal to your perfect audience. Copywriting is where it is at in marketing. Okay, photography is important. All the things are important, but really it all comes down to the words that you use. And copywriting is the most important strategy in marketing a successful business. So back to every slide I start with so. It's my thing today. So make your content skimmable so it's easy for humans to read, easy for scanners. Again, I can't say this enough. I've said it before, I will say it again. Make your content skimmable by using headings, bullets, bolding. Make sure there's white space for the eye to rest. Avoid big, huge blocks of text by keeping your paragraphs 3 to 4 sentences and very simple sentences. Keep them short and sweet. A strong, impactful sentence, if you do need to have it, stick it out there on its own. Make it a quote, make it something that stands out, all right? Your special effects like parentheses, if you're going to say something under your breath or something funny, then maybe like that you would giggle about, maybe put that in parentheses to make it stand out a little bit. And if you want your words to sound like a little bit more bold, emphasize them with italics or the bold content, bold tag. Oh, the Ray Edwards book is free. Thank you, Michelle. It's such a valuable book. I actually have a hard copy and I keep it right by my desk and I use it as a reference guide constantly. It is such a good book. And going back, show your personality, be yourself, and you want your best friend when they read your emails or your content to say, oh, that sounds like you, right? So don't censor yourself in drafts. You don't need to make yourself sound very professional, very stuffy. Honestly, the more eloquent and bigger your words are, the less likely people are to really engage and connect with your content. So anything that you say that's super charming that you might say in person, add it to your brand words and keep a little swipe file of brand words. You want people that read your emails to say, I can totally hear you saying that. So another opportunity to chat. What do you think the most common mistake in email marketing is?
I would guess spelling just based on personal experience.
I ended with a preposition too, didn't I?
Not having a call to action, Michelle says.
Yeah, Michelle, you're right. The most common mistake in email marketing is avoiding the call to action by not making it easy and telling them what to do. Make it easy. You have one ask. Remember, we talked about that one ask. Make it count. So things that you could ask them to do, and you literally need to say, click a link, reply to the email, take this survey, buy this product. You need to say those words. Know your most wanted response before you start your email. So before you write your email, decide what do you want to achieve with this email? Do you want people to click a link, reply to the email, take a survey, make a purchase? Which one of those do you want people to do? There's many other responses that you might want, but that's the one that, those are the 4 that most people would use. Within the body of the email, use a minimum of 3 links. So one of them could be a button, and one of them could be an image that's clickable, and one could be just a link. And if you don't know how to create a link in your email, I'm actually going to show you right now. So this is my inbox. And what you would do is in your inbox, when you're writing an email, you would grab a URL. So say Canva, which is where I made this PowerPoint presentation, or it's not really a PowerPoint presentation. So say I wanted this link. All right, so I'm just going to snag this, copy and paste it, right? Copy. And within here, I could say Canva. And what you do is you highlight your copy that you want to make clickable, and see this little link down here, click it, and you literally just paste it in, and now this is a clickable link. Okay, and that might be too elementary for you, but honestly, at one point I didn't know it either, so I thought I would include that today. So that's how you make your links clickable. You can do the same thing with images. You can just highlight the image and add the link to it with that little link button, as well as create a button by just highlighting things. The PS is probably something that you don't think about in email, but it's something that people read. And in order to explain why, I'm going to get into list psychology and the way IMapping works. And Kelsey and I were just talking about IMapping a little earlier today. IMapping, when you work online, is so, so very important. And so I'm going to give you a quick lesson in IMapping. So when people that read English start to read something on a screen, they start in the upper left-hand corner. They scroll across, they scroll down, and then they scroll across. They do a Z all the way down, every website, every email. It's just a Z, 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 right? So when you're going through, what they're doing when they do this is they'll start at the top and they just sort of gather the top, first and the last thing. And you think about words. When you look at a word, you don't read every letter of the word. You look at the first letters and the last letters, and your brain fills in the rest, actually. It's the same with sentences, it's the same with paragraphs, and it's the same with lists. So when you look at a list, most of the time you look at the top item and the bottom item in a list. And then if you decide to skim through the rest, you do. But the first and the last item in a list is probably the most important part of any list. So consider that logic when you're creating website menus, creating your bullets in an email. People will look at the first and the last thing. But with that in mind, your PS is probably one of the most underlooked opportunities in your on your email, simply because as readers skim the content, and if you use that list theory I just shared, you know that the most important part of the website or the email is the beginning and the end. And so to include a PS that summarizes your whole offer with a clickable link in your PS is a great way to capture and leverage that logic. So if you're not using PSs, just consider adding them. Just a quick one. I wouldn't add 5 PSs. You'll see like PS, PPS, PPPS, right? Just do the one. But if you use your PS to restate your offer in one sentence and then supply a link, if you can, that's a great way to leverage it. Another opportunity that is often missed is your email signature. And I really like to use an email signature as a tool that I mix up a little bit. So I do have a one and done email signature, but what I often suggest are adding a variety of things. So you can add your call to action. You can add your image, right? You can add your social media icons. Those are all great things to have in your email signature. One thing that I love and I don't see very often added to email signatures are testimonials. And so if you wanted to, you could add just a brief testimonial about your product to your email signature and mix it up. I would change it up about once every week or two. So here's a list of things that you can and should consider having in your email signature. So I love to always use a photo, and you can use a tool like Canva in order to create a transparent PNG like this, or even just a circle. You can have your call to action in your email, even if it's just to sign up for your freebie or your specific offer that your business, your legacy or offer that your business has. Social media icons that link to your channels and a customer testimonial. And I would say of that, I would say the most important things would be the image, the call to action, and the customer testimonial. Everything else, honestly, if they're going to click on your social media links, it's not really going to provide you any value from your email. So I would focus on those 3. And if you're going to send them somewhere, I would send them to your offer. We talked a lot about writing emails, and there's so much more to email marketing. There's so many more layers. There's sequencing and algorithms and broadcasts and all kinds of different things that we could talk about. This is the absolute basics that we talked about today. But I did want to give you some data, what to measure if when you are doing email marketing. So the two things that I would say to start with to measure are your click-through rate, and that would be how often are people clicking through to the buttons or the links within your email. And that's probably the most important metric. The next most important metric is your open rate. And so once you've selected and looked at your data, your click-through rate should be between around 5%, and your open rate for a good list should be 20%. So 1 out of every 5 emails you send should be opened. And of that, on average, when you break that down, you've got your 3% click-through rate, 3 to 5% click-through rate. So if you're having trouble with your open rates, the first thing that I would want you to work on is, what did we talk about earlier? Subject lines. It's all about subject lines. So definitely start off with looking at your subject line. Make sure your email is viewable on all devices, because most people are reading their email on their phones now. And are you bothering people? Are you being a pest? Are you emailing them too often? I don't personally, some email marketers will say email 2 to 3 times a week. I think once a week is a sweet spot personally, but it's different for every brand, right? So if you are a product-based business, you may want to email more frequently. I'm a service-based business. I don't want to bother people too much, but I do want to be at top of mind for them. Looking at time of day as well, think about when your clients or your customers are opening their emails. So my emails go out at 6:30 on a Monday morning because I'm catering to a busy entrepreneur who's getting up and ready to hustle for the week, right? Someone who is selling a facial cleansing system might want to focus on a different time of day. Like maybe her ideal audience is a stay-at-home mom or somebody that watches a specific type of show, and they also tend to skim the internet at the same time, right? So really thinking about your ideal audience and determining the best time to send the emails is also important. And you can time and schedule send your emails. And if your open rate is poor, does your email list need to be cleaned up? Do you have a bunch of old emails that for people that aren't engaged? Do you need to just clean up that email list and remove those subscribers? And we won't get into all of those things, the how-to today, more so just knowing that those are some of the solutions. The how-to is very different from system to system to system, and there are so many email marketing systems out there. I will share with you some of the ones that I recommend and one that I don't recommend. And with that, we'll get into the tools of the trade. So these are some of the tools that I love for email marketing. The first thing I love to do, and I use this for copywriting in general, is I keep a swipe file. So I have a couple swipe files. I have a swipe file as an email folder in my inbox. And if I get an email that I really like, I literally just save it to my swipe file. And the reason I do that is when I'm struggling to write or to think of something to send, I have a file of inspirational stuff that I think is absolutely fabulous that I can just look through. I never copy, but I do use things. I steal inspiration shamelessly from other creators. And I would encourage you to never feel like you have to create something from scratch. Steal like an artist, and nothing out there under the sun is new. So use every bit of inspiration that you can gather. And once you've created your own content, then you steal from yourself shamelessly and reuse that content over and over and over again. Like I said, I create blogs that go out as an email, that go out as social media posts, that some of this content today was based upon blogs that I've written. I also will go back and pull those blogs and link them within my website for content. I've used my blogs as frequently asked questions answers. So there's so many ways that you could reuse your content. Additionally, it's being efficient with your content, because those are your brand words. Those are the words that people need to get to know you by. And so the more you use those brand words and those things that are associated with your brand and the way that you say things, the more recognizable you are. Same with your images. There's nothing wrong with using your images over and over and over again. Those are your brand content. So I do keep a swipe file on my email, but I also keep a swipe file in the Notes app on my phone. And what I do is I like to read. I read a lot. And so if I find something that I think is funny or witty or sounds like my brand, I actually will take a little note and keep it in a copy swipe. And sometimes at the end of writing a piece of content, it will look a little bland. It will not sound like Corey content. And so I literally will look through my swipe file of jokes and things that I really like to use, and I'll slide a few into the content just to make it interesting read. You don't have to create everything. Just because you're using shortcuts doesn't mean that you're not being creative or original. So when it comes to the best email system, I would say the email system that I recommend is the one that you will use. There's one that I'm going to tell you today that I don't recommend, but I will say this: if you're already using it, keep using it because it's the one you're using. So with that in mind, these are the email systems that I recommend. Generally, for starters, I recommend a system called MailerLite. It's free up to 1,000 subscribers. They are very careful about spam. There are some rules around email lists, and especially in the European Union, they don't necessarily apply as law in the United States. However, they are frowned upon over here. But in the European Union, it's illegal to send out emails to people that have not subscribed to you. And you have to have 2 authentications that they are willing to receive your emails. MailerLite is a European, Eastern European platform. So you will have to go through a vetting process and be approved by them. They are fabulous. If you don't have a website, you can even create your website through MailerLite. Absolutely fabulous. After 1,000 subscribers, they start at $10 a month. And if you want to take their branding off your emails, it's $10 a month. You cannot beat it because you will make more than $10 a month with email marketing. And imagine getting launching your website for free on MailerLite. A little bit more of an advanced system, and this is great for product-based businesses as well as service-based businesses. ConvertKit is another program that is great. It is a little bit more expensive, but it is a little bit more streamlined. So I would compare MailerLite to an Android and ConvertKit to an Apple device, right? You get what you get in here, but it's all top tier, and you can do anything that you want in here. All right. And then, you know what? If you've got Gmail and you're comfortable using that, just go ahead and use a straight old Gmail and send from that. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing. And honestly, you're probably going to hit less spam filters if you're sending it from your Gmail. The one I don't recommend is Mailchimp. And let me tell you why. Mailchimp is a great product. It's very popular. It's very user-friendly. There's not a lot of bad things around Mailchimp, with the exception of when you get more advanced and you start to segment your subscribers, which like I said, there's so much more to email marketing. But at some point you will want to segment your subscribers. And what I mean is, say you own a boat and auto, like say you own a boat shop and an auto shop together, right? And so you might not want to send the auto emails to the subscribers that bought boats. So you would segment that list. With Mailchimp, unfortunately, what happens is as you segment your list, they're charged as though they're a different subscriber. So as your list grows, if you're using a subscriber in 2, 3 different lists, and sometimes you have many, many lists, you might have people that are moms, people that are moms of toddlers, people that are moms of school-age children, right? And when you really start to segment them out, moms that are divorced, that are toddlers, right? So that you can really customize your emails for them, you'll pay for that subscriber 3, 4, 5, whatever, which doesn't seem like a big deal if you're under 1,000, but it does get expensive because after you have about 1,000 subscribers, you do have to start to pay per prescriber. And so that it can get very expensive. So I'm a big fan of starting out with something that you can grow with, which is why I recommend one of these. They're great. These 2 in particular are great to grow with you. There are some other free tools that are out there that can help with your email marketing. This presentation was done in Canva. And so Canva is a great design tool. and it is free. All of these are free that I've recommended. You can use Trello, which is a project management tool, to plan out your emails and to keep your templates if you like. Zoom, what we're using today, is a great way to shoot video, and so is Loom. So you can shoot video of your screen if you're showing something, or even of yourself, to include and embed in your emails. Grammarly saves me 100% of the time. In addition to the spell check, Grammarly has saved my bacon dozens and dozens of times. I actually have the pro subscription to Grammarly, and what I can do is say, I want to sound funny, witty, and casual. And it literally will give me suggestions on how to do that. So I think that's great. As someone who does copywriting, that's very handy. Zapier is a tool that will automate some processes. So say you create a new contact in your Google Contacts, it can actually send an interface to a different software to say, here's a new contact, you need to add this person to this list or something. So if you haven't ever used Zapier, it's a game changer. And you can have up to 5 zaps a month, 30 zaps per zap for free. And Upwork. If you're not sure how to get something set up, you could probably find someone that can help you on Upwork if you're looking to do it on a dime to help you out. I would caution you that there are a lot of overseas workers on Upwork. And I've had some great luck and I've had some bad luck, but just like with hiring anybody. But it's a great thing for an entrepreneur when you're just looking for a subcontractor or somebody that's specialized into something. And these are all linkable, but linked, by the way, when Kelsey sends out the link, the slides, you'll be able to link right into those if you like. Here are some books that I recommend that will help you with copywriting so well. So I recommend Copy That Sells. I talked about that already, the Ray Edwards book, which thank you, Michelle, for sharing that it's free on Kindle, I believe. .com Secrets goes over the behavioral psychology of email marketing. I will say that it's a little salesy. It's a little pushy, but it really is a good kickoff, and it gets you started with the type of sequences that you could use and the way that you could start to email your list and gather subscribers, with the knowledge that it is a little salesy. And I find that people in Maine don't respond very well to heavily salesy emails. However, if you are working on a national basis, this might be a good option for you. And Donald Miller's Building a Story Brand is a great way for you to really get in the head and learn about your ideal customer and really learn about what makes them tick and how to outreach to them in a way that is meaningful and provides them value. So these are 3 books. I love to use books in my business. I usually have 2 on the go at any time, simply because they're telling, you've got somebody pouring years and years of knowledge into something that is, in the case of How to Write Copy That Sells, according to Michelle, is free. And Building a Story Brand, I think I spent $12.99 on it, right? I mean, they're just amazing assets for you to use over and over. And then you have that knowledge that you can leverage. If you'd like to subscribe to my Monday morning tips, those go out each Monday at 06:30, and they provide just a 2-minute tip for you to do in your business that week. One week I might talk about, hey, here's some tips on how to optimize your signature in your email, like we talked about adding the testimonial to your signature. That's one of the tips that I sent out. They're just pretty simple things, but it's something that is doable in 2 minutes or less, and certainly pretty valuable. And if you don't have a digital marketing advisor and you would like one, you can request advising through your advisor, or you can go right to the website and get an advisor overall if you don't have an advisor right now. I know Kelsey, when she sends out this slideshow, will include the link to request advising, as well as these slides and a few of the other things that we'll be talking about today. So with that in mind, does anyone have any questions, or what questions are out there?
Awesome. No specific questions yet, but feel free to plug them in. I was saying earlier, and I say this a lot, like, I feel like I learned so much in these presentations. I had written down the name of that book, and then everyone was like, oh, that's free. So I'll have to double check on that. And yeah, I want to just have a little bit of construction going on, so I apologize for begging, but I can reiterate how wonderful those free tools are. I use about half of them, and I rely heavily on Grammarly. So cannot not encourage you more to use it. Michelle has a question. Michelle, would you like to unmute yourself?
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
I'm just starting to build an email list right now, and I have a bunch of customers that ordered from my, at the time, brand new Shopify store last Christmas. What's the etiquette around reaching out to these people just once, saying, hey, I have an email list now, I'm giving away a coupon, and we've got upcoming events for the holiday season. Would you like to sign up?
So yeah, giving them an opt-in at that one point, and I definitely would give them, I would preface it with, hey, you shopped with us last Christmas, the holiday season is coming up again. Definitely, write a compelling ask, simply because you haven't reached out to them. I would watch your numbers really closely, because Google will tag, if you have a lot of people that report you as spam, Google will note that and increase your spam rate overall.
Okay.
So just make sure that I would not cut any corners on this one. I would be really careful about your subject line and your first 100 letters and all of those things that I said today.
Okay.
Be really, really, like, put a lot of extra initiative into this one, not just shoot it out.
Okay.
I have done that before. Like, I just need to get it done, and I've always paid for it later.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Lots of thank yous all around. So definitely thank you, Corey, and thank you everyone for joining. Everyone saying this is great information, and I agree. Like I said, I apologize for this banging. At least we're at the end of
Do you have someone locked in your basement?
I'm actually on the 3rd floor. He's in like an elevating machine, so he's right outside the window right now. So again, thank you all so much for spending your lunch with us. Thank you, Corey, as always. I will send out a follow-up email later this afternoon, probably, that will include a link to the recording and the slides, and all of those clickable links are in the slides, so you'll have access to everything. Michelle, you can put it back on repeat as you work on your subject line later on. And so, yeah, as always, thank you so much for joining the main SBDC. If you are not familiar, all that information will be in my follow-up email. Like Corey said, the button to request advising will be right in there. And yeah, otherwise, have a wonderful afternoon, everyone.